Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. Bro Show, Ryan Grimm is in the house. It's great to see you, Ryan. Thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. He's got his painted fingernails. The mark of a girl dad. I'm sure I'll be there in a few years there, Ryan.
You'll come back from vacation.
Yeah, come back from vacation with your fingernails all pointed. Kids' hands are all wrapped in Band-Aids. So I can't wait for it. It's going to be exciting. All right, what do we got today? Toughest part of the job. We're going to talk about disaster funding, aren't we? This is an interesting story. I found myself actually at the center of it doing some reporting. So initial report from the Trump administration, they would withhold disaster relief funds from any state that allowed the boycott of Israel. Not just Israel, but Israeli companies. There's been some changes to that official language. However, the policy itself is still reserved the right of the Trump administration, the Department of Homeland Security, to do so. That's a troubling trend of a boycott, basically using states, 39 states with anti-quote BDS laws on the books that are now being weaponized against U.S. citizens for their own tax dollars. That's obviously a good segue into our Israel segment. I'm going to rely on Ryan heavily there. There are some reports coming out of Israel. Netanyahu has approved a, quote, full-scale occupation of Gaza. What does that mean? Is it a negotiation tactic? We'll see. We're going to talk about India, the Trump administration escalating a trade war on India. Not, by the way, anything about our country and how, our country's trade relationship would work with that country, non-tariff barriers, etc. But it's about Ukraine. Interesting, which obviously is an easy way to talk about some of the developments in that war. Ukrainians now allowing 60-year-olds to join the fight. So obviously the sign of a thriving war machine over there. We're also going to talk about gerrymandering. Gerrymandering sweeping the country. Texas Democrats leaving the state after Texas Republicans attempt to basically change the districts inside of the state, try to gerrymander away a few Democratic seats. This has actually caused some brinksmanship. New York and California saying, okay, fine. One-party states, let's game on, so it's a race to the bottom and all of that. There's a lot to say. Ryan is actually an expert on gerrymandering, or at least much more of an expert than I am. So
wasted a lot of time covering it.
I was going to say,
I'll say that.
There's a lot of time in the 2010s when gerrymandering was the top era where Ryan in particular cut his teeth, so I'm going to rely on him. And then my friend Andrew Schultz breaking with Donald Trump on IVF. Obviously, that was a big, not breaking with, asking Donald Trump why he decided not to follow through with his pledge to provide, quote, free IVF. It was a campaign promise, and it was kind of a signature way that they were trying to move away from the more, distasteful parts of the pro-life coalition. So that's what they landed on, and we'll see if it actually does have some electoral pushback now that the GOP officially has zero plans to cover free IVF. And finally, we're going to be joined by Abdul El Sayed. He is running for the Democratic primary in the state of Michigan. Ryan, we're going to get his reaction to the Alyssa Slotkin interview.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
A few other.
He's running to be her colleague.
He's running to be her colleague. Does he think his colleague did well? Future colleague did well here? He's going to have to navigate a lot of very tricky issues here in Washington. Being a senator, is he going to vote for Chuck Schumer for leadership? How is he going to handle himself? Obviously, you've got a lot of Democrats which are very angry. He's running in this primary system right now. But once you get to the big leagues, how are you going to handle the John Fettermans, the Alyssa Slotkins, and all of that in the world? So we got some good questions for him. All right. So before we get to that, though, thank you everybody to our premium subscribers, which let's start off with a deep apology for yesterday. So the team has fully informed us and we have gotten to the bottom of it. Here's basically the TLDR. Our premium show did not go out when it was supposed to. We're deeply sorry about that. Basically, Locals and Rumble servers, it appears like melted yesterday, and our email was not going out properly, despite the fact that our show was ready mostly on time, even though it was like a 2.5 hour or whatever type show. We are going to change some things about the way that we provide notification in the event of a late show or a technical malfunction. So we're very, very sorry to all of our premium subscribers. Just please do know that you guys are always at the top of our thoughts, and we apologize for the way that it all rolled out. And I guess that's a good segue of why you should support premium, right? Because it'll
be better.
It'll be better. We promise it'll be better. I don't know what to say. BreakingPoints.com. If you could support us, just know that we're working on it. It's a small team here, and we are always at the mercy of these bigger companies and their servers. Some days it's locals or a lot of times it's YouTube as well. Spotify has been dragging their ass in terms of getting our stuff up on their RSS feed. I mean, we're trying our best. We're dealing with gigabyte files and all this. The show has to be delivered to all these different places. So the technical people in our audience will understand, but we're trying our best. I promise you, breakingpoints.com if you're able to help us out. But with that, let's get with the disaster relief funding. So let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. Absolute major outcry yesterday after the Trump administration put out a FEMA guidance. And let me just keep this up here while I'm talking, just to explain how absolutely crazy this is. So FEMA put out a guidance, Ryan, to all states that who want to accept disaster relief grants, which, you know,
all of
right,
them.
I would say all of them. And, you know, even the libertarians would be like, all right,
it's our tax money.
The federal
like
government, the federal government doesn't have a lot of roles. We could all probably say disaster relief, broadly one of those.
Although Trump for like 5 minutes was like, FEMA's not going to do anything anymore.
Right. So, but I'm saying,
first disaster.
If you were
like,
to
actually,
ask most people what the role of federal government is, it's like, hey, if you get hit by a hurricane, they're going to come in and help you. We all pay into the system. System helps us out whenever that happens. Well, the Trump administration slipped in this exact language into these FEMA grants. And I'm going to read directly, just so you all understand how absolutely crazy it is. It says that by accepting, recipients will comply with all applicable federal anti-discrimination laws material to the government's payment decisions for purposes of 31 U.S.C. 372b4. Quote, definitions as used in this clause. DEI means diversity, equity, inclusion. DEIA means diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Discriminatory equity ideology has a meaning set forth, and they talk about an executive order. So far, they're saying you can't have DEI policies on the books if you want to this disaster relief funding. Okay, I'm totally fine with that. But then subpart D says here, quote, discriminatory prohibited boycott means refusing to deal, cutting commercial relations, or otherwise limiting commercial relations, specifically with Israeli companies or with companies doing business in or with Israel or authorized by, licensed by, or organized under the laws of Israel to do business. So let's underscore that, is that the Trump administration was telling states, if you allow the boycott of Israel, if you allow the boycott of Israeli companies, if you allow the boycott of companies doing business with Israel, you as a United States citizen and as a state will be barred from your tax dollars from getting disaster relief funding. Now, this was, Ryan, I think just too much for everybody involved. And so what ensued was a fascinating about face, which is not really an about face, which takes us to the next one. Let's put that up there on the screen. Shortly after, many of us basically had outcry about this, drew attention. The Trump administration removed that exact language about discriminatory boycotts against the state of Israel. I have the original and the new, by the way.
Do we have Rufo here?
Yeah, well, I didn't originally have it in, but people like Christopher Rufo, who's a anti-DEI
He quote tweeted yours.
That's right. He was like, hey, even this is not good. And Ryan, I just want your reaction here now, because they've come full circle. Even though they did remove this anti-discriminatory language about the state of Israel. Put the next one up here on the screen, just so I can very clearly explain. The DHS put out this statement. Quote, there is no FEMA requirement tied to Israel in any current, guidance. No states have lost funding. No new conditions have been imposed. FEMA grants remain governed by existing law and policy and not political litmus tests. Quote, DHS will enforce all anti-discrimination laws and policies, including as it relates to the BDS movement, which is expressly grounded in anti-Semitism. So my explanation, based on my reporting, talking with many of the people involved, is that after the outcry, they removed the specific language about Israel. But the DHS statement makes it clear they reserve the right to deny you your federal funding should you engage in BDS. And I mean, Ryan, I genuinely...
look at the last line there.
Yeah.
those who engage in racial discrimination should not receive a single dollar of federal funding. That sounds like Biden.
I mean, in actual racial discrimination, sure. If it's about BDS, no. And obviously, that's why the languages matter. And that's why, Ryan, I just think this is such...
It's not racial discrimination.
I know that. You and I know that, all right? These terms all used to mean things, and they don't anymore. But, Ryan, this is just such a dramatic outrage to say that they would withhold federal funding based upon boycotting the state of Israel to any state. And, the fact is that, look, yeah, it's great. They removed the language. The fact it was in the first place is insane. And then the fact that the DHS basically put out a statement saying we reserve the right to do so if we would like to, shows us that the policy effectively remains in effect today. It's preposterous. It's un-American.
It's the exact same policy because the states have been put on notice by that DHS statement that they put out on Twitter there, that they believe that the law as it's written gives them the right to withhold aid money from any state that involves itself in a boycott of Israeli companies.
And not even involves itself, allows its state's residents to engage in boycotts.
Right, and so are they saying that, and we can put these up next if we want, the list of states, there's more than 30 states across the country have laws on the books that say that if you want to do any business with that state whatsoever, which means like, a lot of contractors that may work for a private company that itself does some other contracting with the state, set aside being a teacher or some other obvious state employee, that if you participate in BDS, you can't participate in this work in your own society, that you pledge that you will never boycott. Which then, the line in there that says you won't even limit your. So what if you're like, well, I was going to do 10 orders of hummus for this party, but I think I might only need 5. And they're like, wait a minute. Now, do you really only need 5, or are you limiting your purchase of hummus?
Well, what's preposterous about it is that it includes Israeli companies doing business with Israel. As you said, what is the state going to come in and be like, you're not doing enough business with Israel?
Do more
you need
business
to do
with
more
Israel.
business with Israel. Yeah. Who's telling me that as a private business, who or what I can do business with whatever I want? Also, we'll all recall that conservatives gleefully supported the boycott of Bud Light. Great. Okay.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah, as you should be able to. Or what? Ben and Jerry's said that they don't want to do. Fine, whatever. You don't want to buy Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Be my fucking guest. All right. Same. I could go on forever. The conservatives they went after Target. Right. All right. Fine. Don't shop at Target. That's okay.
And then
don't shop at any of these places.
Went after Target too.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Same.
Or Target.
Right? Yeah. No, not poor Target. We don't need any more. All right. That's the message to my wife. We need to stop going to Target. All right. Why are they obsessed with it? But my
too
point,
much junk in Target.
There's too much bullshit in Target. I totally agree. But my point, just broadly, is that we should, of course, as private businesses and as citizens, be allowed to do whatever we want to do. And part of the reason why this is so ridiculous is that we could simultaneously refuse to do business with any other country. It's a carve-out here, specifically for the state of Israel. So us, as a private business, Ryan, could refuse to do business with Peru, or I don't even know.
Not Lithuania.
Yes,
they're a strong ally of ours.
Yeah, that's right, as Lissa Slotkin made very clear in our interview.
No, you can boycott Russia.
You could boycott Russia.
You can pour their vodka right out on the sidewalk.
Yeah, Smirnoff. Is that still Russian-owned? I don't know.
Who knows?
But yeah, all right. You can if you want to.
You can boycott Ukraine.
Huh?
You can boycott Ukraine if you want to make your neighbors in the suburbs angry.
That's right.
You can do that.
I will. Yeah, I can't. Well, that would require boycotting a Ukrainian company, which I can't even think of any. But my point stands.
So is the question then that you actually have to pass a law, if it says that if you allow your citizens to boycott Israel, that you don't get this aid money, does that mean you have to join these other 30+ states and implement your own anti-BDS law, or else you can't get this aid money? It's truly extraordinary.
And it all fits with a bigger pattern. This is something that red states have been doing for quite some time. Let's put this A5, please, up on the screen. This just came a few months ago. Governor Abbott, Greg Abbott of the state of Texas, sent a letter to the city of San Marcos condemning a proposed anti-Semitic resolution, according to him, openly flouting Texas law. It says here, quote, Israel is a stalwart ally of the United States and a friend to Texas. I have repeatedly made it clear Texas will not tolerate anti-Semitism. Quote, anti-Israel policy. Are we seeing how these things are getting conflated? Anti-Israel policies are, quote, anti-Texas policies. Over a year ago, following Hamas's attacks, openly celebrating, I issued an executive order addressing anti-Semitism in higher education, and I have proudly signed legislation prohibiting government entities from supporting efforts to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel. That remains the law here. In the letter, Governor Abbott noted San Marcos is required to certify it will comply with all state laws when it enters into grant agreements with its office, including laws prohibiting government support for boycotts of Israel, and the governor's office is reviewing active grants to determine whether the city has breached these terms. If the city adopts this anti-Semitic resolution, the office of the governor will immediately terminate all active grants not in compliance with state law. By the way, I've been to San Marcos, great city. There's some fun water parks and other things down there, rivers, etc. Nice part of the state. What in its governance has anything to do with the state of Israel? And the governor of Texas is withholding funds based upon the city of San Marcos's position on Israel and Palestine in a non-binding local resolution.
Yeah, and the city voted it down so as not to bring on the wrath of the governor of Texas. All the resolution said, by the way, was there should be a ceasefire.
That's it.
The citizens of San Marcos support a ceasefire. And also what it did is it calculated the percentage of state and federal money that goes to Israel, and then divided it basically and figured out what proportion San Marcos citizens were chipping in on that. And they said, we object to this. Like, we don't want to be funding this. They have no capacity to claw that money back. Like that wasn't even what was happening. In other words, they were not allowed to say in a non-binding way that they disagreed with what was happening. That's with no teeth at all.
Got it.
Just, they were not allowed to publicly voice their opinion on the question, or else they would lose all of these state contracts.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like, they weren't actually going to take any bombs away from Israel.
What are they going to do? It's the city of San Marcos. They've got the river. It's a population, I just looked at 94,000 people, all right? And if they want to pass some non-binding resolution, whatever, all right? I mean, it shouldn't have any, any bearing or impact. People do it all the time. And just so people know, it's not just red states that's happening. These are some of the biggest states in the country. Let's put this up there on the screen. This is from January of 2025. Kathy Hochul and the New York governor actually condemned the NYC university system faculty union for an Israel boycott. So again, a resolution passed by the SUNY Professional Staff Congress, representing its 30,000 members, puts its organization at odds with the university administration and the state government. The union, again, a union of the professors at SUNY, had a resolution, quote, citing the death toll in Gaza, talking about the ICC and the International Court of Justice as reason for a boycott. The resolution then said that this small student or this small professorial union will will divest itself from investment vehicles with Israeli corporate stocks. Okay, I mean, again, we're talking about 30,000 people.
Do it,
They're
man.
Pooled funds. What is it, a couple $1 million? Like, let's be honest. In terms of
not a lot of hummus.
It's not a lot of sabra. All right, And it called on the teachers' retirement system to, quote, enact a complete divestment of Israel. Okay, so that resolution passes by a vote of 73 to 70. The union confirms. The New York governor then comes out and says exclusively in a statement to the Times of Israel, in my first week as governor, I signed an executive order to divest public funds from institutions that participate in the harmful BDS movement, and that order remains in effect. I strongly oppose the resolution, narrowly passed by delegates, and will continue standing up against anti-Semitism and hate in all forms. So the New York Democratic governor and the Texas Republican governor have two things in common. They have BDS executive orders that were very quickly signed. in these two states. So we have a blue state and a red state here, just to show you how big of a problem this entire thing is, and really the weaponization of a lot of this stuff. Finally, Ryan, can you explain this next one to us? Let's put it up there on the screen. This is from the Institute for Pure and Applied Mathematics at UCLA. A7, please. And Ryan's going to explain to us what happened.
This one is truly enraging from top to bottom. So, and this is Paul Graham had shared this post from Terence Tao, who is a UCLA mathematician who is broadly agreed to be the greatest, or at least one of the top 3 mathematicians of the last 50 years.
Okay.
This is a guy who has, and nobody wants to hear me attempt to describe
we're not people
the mathematics that he has, the kind of breakthroughs that he has rendered in mathematics.
People say he's good. All right.
Look it up.
Yeah,
Suffice it to say, it's some incredible stuff that has led to, and I was looking up last night, it's what he has done is theoretical, but his theoretical advances have led to a MRI machines working 10 times better than they would otherwise because of the expanded capacity to do visioning. And when it comes to all sorts of other practical applications, advances in mathematics help in ways that we can't even begin to understand. And if we don't have those advances, then we don't get those technological advances either. And that's for the people who are like, well, who cares about math? Whether it's applied or pure. So this guy has been a full professor at UCLA since the 90s when he was 24, the youngest person to ever become a full professor at UCLA. He is known throughout his field for his collaborative work. Hundreds of papers, more than 60 of them are with other mathematicians. So he's the kind of guy that is working with others to lift people up. What he announced here is that he's now lost all of his funding through the NSF and NIH. Because he's a UCLA professor, he'll still have his UCLA salary. So it's not like he personally is being fired as a result of this. But what it means is that all of his grad students are now unfunded. And if you think about who his grad students are, these are the up-and-coming best mathematicians in the world. Because if you're a math prodigy anywhere in the world, you want to work with Terence Tao. This is the guy, because not only is he a genius 10 times over, but he's collaborative and he loves working with people. What he wrote in his post here is that he had already had a bunch of his grants cut earlier when Doge was coming through. And so what he did is he took all of his own funding and deferred it. So he's like, I don't need any money for myself. I want all of the money that was coming to me to go to my grad students so that they can stay on for a little while longer. And now they've come back and they've cut that too. And
why? Tell us
Israel.
why. Oh.
Israel.
And what's the justification?
Trump doesn't like the way that UCLA handled protests.
Okay.
But if you remember,
I was going to say, if I recall,
the cops let a bunch of
pro-Israel guys
thugs beat up the students.
Right.
And even that is not good enough. So you had Joe Lonsdale, private equity guy.
Yeah, I know Joe.
Tweeted, so Paul Graham who posted this. Joe Lonsdale shared it and was like, look, Terence, obviously a genius. We all respect his work, but he should work somewhere else because UCLA is actually terribly anti-Semitic and handled the protests. They let the thugs beat the students, and then he disciplined a bunch of students for protesting a genocide. That's not good enough for you? That you have to destroy Terence Tao? And who wins out of this?
Well, okay, and the irony is that UCLA and the University of California system has already taken extraordinary steps to comply with the Trump administration. So
what do you
currently, just so everybody understands, UC system, the University of California system, has put a ban on BDS and has said that any student organization that participates
which is
in BDS,
all of them.
which is, a lot, not a shocker, the UC system will not be eligible for funds from the university. So already the university system, so it's like, well, what else do you want? And, reading through all of this, the justification of look, it has nothing to do with America. And that's why it's just infuriating to me. You want to pull the guy's visa or whatever if he's here illegally? Okay,
He's American,
fine.
though.
No, I'm not saying,
I know what
but
you
I'm saying
mean,
previous there were examples of that, right? You want to pull a guy's visa because he committed a crime, because he's a foreigner who, violated the visa law or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Or at least it's justifiable. If you want to pull the person for being discriminatory against fellow U.S. citizens or engaging in racial discrimination or something, I would be fine with that. But here it's about what they claim is anti-Semitism, but as you just laid out, is about boycotting a foreign state. And by the way, this guy didn't even, from what I can understand, he's not even political, right? Or,
No.
I mean, probably political to the extent all academics are, which is like vaguely liberal.
Probably voted for Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, voted for Gavin. Yeah, loves Gavin, loves Kamala, and
Probably
this
thinks they're
guy's
morons.
funding gets pulled at the UCLA. So I just want people to understand the justification for this sledgehammer from the government and the deploying of funds across all sectors of our economy and of our states that are based on boycott of Israel. And this is a right-left problem. This is now a Trump problem. And it's just completely absurd. And finally, Ryan, you have an update here, 8-8, about Elon and Twitter removing a blue check from Francesca Albanese, who has been on the show, by the way.
Yeah, so this is wild. Like there are entire organizations that have been set up. I think UNWatch.org, which is referenced in this tweet here, is one of them. Specifically, it seems for the sole purpose of trolling Francesca Albanese, who is an unpaid UN special rapporteur for Israel-Palestine. She was sanctioned recently by the U.S. government, which people need to absorb what that means. Like, it makes it very difficult for her to bank, to travel, to kind of exist as a human in the world. Sanctioned. What does she do? She has no power whatsoever. She can convene events.
And made a report.
And put out reports, which you can read or you can not read.
I read it. She was here on our show. You can go watch that interview, by the way, if you're interested. Yeah.
Oh, you might get sanctioned.
Yeah, actually, I don't know. Yeah, right.
Careful. So these pro-Israel pressure groups reached out with lawyers to Twitter to get her blue check. Are you joking? And Elon
it worked.
Immediately, okay, fine. Blue check gone.
Wow.
Taking the blue check.
Interesting. And the justification is that sanctions now. So the Ayatollah has
can't
a blue
take her
check,
money.
but
If she can't take her $8.
How do you even know she's paying for it? Because nowadays you don't even have to pay to get your quote blue check. All you have to do is have a certain amount of followers. Yeah. How did that work out, by the way? I remember a lot of people in my mentions talking about how genius the blue check system is. Really worked out well, didn't it?
Yeah, that was great.
So that's where we're at, guys. And like I said, I mean, if you want to have some hope, I guess you can. There was outcry about the explicit anti-Semitism boycott language in the document. They took it out. So, okay. I mean, somewhat of a win. But the truth is that the policy remains in effect if they wanted to. They can enforce it at any time. They say BDS is rooted in anti-Semitism. 39 states in this country, red and blue, you can't accomplish that if it's not truly bipartisan, have anti-BDS laws and or executive orders on their books, which is probably the vast majority of the U.S. population now living under those laws.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and it just shows you the extent to which our government is basically at this service, state, local, federal, now all at the service of the interests of a foreign nation. I just think everybody should keep that in mind.
And the other downside of this weird relationship with this small country is that you just had to spend the first block of this program talking about it, rather than things that actually should matter.
Well, I mean, the reason, and that's a reasonable question.
But
why was this such an important story?
We don't control. If we don't control our own politics,
right?
Then what's the point?
Yeah, and I think that's why, reasonable question, why lead with it? Well, number one, obviously this topic, I think near and dear to a lot of people in our demographics, audience, is hard. But two is, it's like you just said, how can we talk about anything if the framework is such where people have to be wary of their language and of their actions as private citizens, as businesses, as state residents, and others, if we're literally not allowed to freely say whatever we want. Especially it stings coming from a near decade-long freak out over anti-racism, which I was there with you, okay? I fought in the trenches, anti-racism and DEI, and I was there long before a lot of these other folks were, talking about Nicole Hannah-Jones and the 1619 Project, and I was with the Trotskyites over at, World Socialist Web, who were writing some of the original takedowns. I loved them, guys. By the way, shout out, to some of the originals who were speaking out against this. So for me, it stings because I literally was there and saw many of the people who were enacting this policy speak out for free speech, for censorship and cancel culture, for this type of behavior. Similarly, remember I remember I met a Texas politician. They were outraged, for example, that their state funds would be subject to BlackRock policies or bank policies because they weren't allowed to invest in oil and gas and or gun companies. And I was like, yeah, I mean, why should they tell you, put your money wherever you want? This is the same, freak out about ESG. You remember that? Right? I mean, think all of these things almost pale in comparison now at this point to the state explicitly denying you funds and or telling you what and you can't do. So I think that everybody should speak out.
And last point, none of these states actually do boycott
Israel.
What they do actually do, and we've done some reporting
you told
on
me.
this.
I was fascinated by this. Please explain it.
Cities and states buy high-risk, low-yield Israeli bonds as a statement of political support.
Got it.
They're high-risk bonds that ought to be high yield. If you're willing to take on risk, you're supposed to then take on a higher interest rate as a result of that. But because we're so friendly, we're going to oversubscribe to these high-risk Israeli bonds. So all of these cities and states could be getting higher interest rate returns for their taxpayers. Instead, they're sending the money to support Israel's debt policy.
Interesting. Wow.
So
that's our
far
tax
from
dollars as
far
well,
from boycotting Israel, what cities and states are doing is propping it up.
That's crazy.
The expense of
Absolutely crazy.
the returns that states could be getting.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.